Hi there, BookTube. Okay, my name is Dan. Here we are today to talk about Racine's Iphigenie. Um, Racine, as you may know, is I don't want to say Shakespeare of French, but anyway, he's the grandmaster of French drama, French tragedy, and famous for his female characters. So that's question one. Um, why do you think Racine was so interested in female characters? Um, and why, and is that a good thing? Um, so great, he's bringing forward these females, but how is he showing them? How is he using them? So that's interesting. So let's see. He wrote, of course, Phèdre and Andromaque and Esther. Late in life, he wrote one called Esther. And let's see, what are some of his other plays? Berenice, Athalie. Anyway, these are all females, right? Iphigenie. And even a play like Britannicus, I would argue the strongest character in that is Agrippina. And just a quick look at Agrippina in that play will give you an idea of what I'm talking about when I say how is he using these females, and also a little bit of an idea of the beauty of his poetry. So I just picked a little bit here called from the play called Britannicus, and this is from Act 4. Cependant, Claudius, penché vers son déclin, ses yeux longtemps fermés s'ouvrirent à la fin. Il connut son erreur, occupé de sa crainte. Il laissa pour son fils échapper quelques plaintes, et voulut, mais trop tard, assembler ses amis. Ses gardes, son palais, son lit m'étaient soumis. Je lui laissai, sans fruit, consumer sa tendresse. De ses derniers soupirs, je me rendis maîtresse. Roughly in English, this gives us so Claudius was nearing his end, and his eyes, long closed, opened finally, and he knew his error in trusting Agrippina, who alienates him to his own son. Um, and He opens his eyes, he sees his error, and he's worried, preoccupied with his worry. He lets his son, he lets for his son, quelques plaintes, a worry or a complaint. And voulut mais trop tard, I love this line, et voulut mais trop tard, assembler ses amis, and wanted, but too late, to bring his friends together. And he sees what's going to happen after his death with the succession. And indeed, he's right. Then you've got ses gardes, son palais, son lit. His guards, his palaces, his bed were submitted to me. This is great, the use of the accumulation here. Je lui laissai sans fruit consumer sa tendresse. I allowed him fruitlessly, uselessly, to use up, to choke on his own tenderness. De ses derniers soupirs, of his last breath, je m'y rendis maîtresse. I made myself mistress. Okay, so this is just an example of what he can do with a female character. So strong, definitely, but maybe a little evil, a little scary. So yeah, and also the other thing that you can see probably from those lists, well, Esther is of course, Esther, of which it is said the voice like the whirlwind, right, from Job, it was Racine's in that play. He wrote late in life, sort of on not on a dare, but the request of someone. He had retired from writing to take over his royal functions and pay attention to them. In his last years, he wrote that one, family request, I think. But yeah, all the others there, you got Phèdre, you got, of course, Agrippina, Andromaque. You've got obviously a great love of Greek tragedy, right? That he resurrects his Greek tragedies and looking at the female characters. So let's get into Iphigenie. So if he's going to pick female from Iphigenie's story, you'll remember that Iphigenie is the daughter of Agamemnon, King Agamemnon, and Clytemnestra. And they also have, as children, Orestes, the Orestea, of course, famously, and Electra. Sartre wrote a play about Electra, I believe. And then Agamemnon wants to go off to war, Troy, and the winds won't let the boats out of the harbor. Agamemnon has offended Artemis by killing one of her stags. So she has the winds blowing against the port. The boats can't launch, and he finds out that he can. Um, the boats can launch if he sacrifices his daughter Iphigenie, which he does. So the other female characters that would be available in this story would be Electra, as I mentioned, and Clytemnestra. But you're going to see that he's going to bring in another female from Greek tragedy at the end. So why did he pick Iphigenie? I mean, it seems like a kind of a weak character. She doesn't have a huge role to play. She's the sacrifice. Very interesting. And what he does with her is pretty interesting too. Of course, she submits, right? She submits to her father, and of course, in the original, she was told that she was going off to marry. This was a scheme of Odysseus, who is an interesting character. This Odysseus, this trickster, not always so heroic as we might take him to be. He's a bit naughty sometimes. So he comes up with a scheme to tell Iphigenia that she's going to get married to Achilles, the great Achilles, right? And you can see here, of course, that the trouble between Achilles and Agamemnon, which you'll remember from the Trojan War, they didn't get along, began really early if he got wind of this lie that was told to poor Iphigenie, that he was going to get married to Achilles. So in the original, she thinks she's off to marry Achilles. She's all happy. And then, nope, sorry, we're going to sacrifice him. But anyway, in this version by Racine, she submits. Okay, let's see. So why does he choose Iphigenia of these female characters? For me, the most fascinating is Clytemnestra, right? Who, when Agamemnon returns from the war, bringing with him Cassandra, another interesting female character, right? The one who prophesies and no one believes her. As the spoil of war, he takes Cassandra. Anyway, when he comes back, she's remarried with Aegisthus, and she, or in one version, he, kill Agamemnon, and then that sets off the Oresteia, right, where the Erinyes, the Furies, pursue Orestes to avenge the patricide, right? Or the killing of his father. So he commits matricide. So he kills his mom as she bears him her breast, and he kills her. Egged on by Electra. That's sort of her role in the Sartre play, if memory serves. She's a bit of a gadfly herself. Indeed, the Sartre calls the Erinyes the Furies in his play, The Flies. And then they're judged by Athena and go on and have other adventures. All right, so for me, Clytemnestra is more interesting, right? She has more agency. So why did he pick Iphigenia? Then I guess the big question, let's look at a line from Iphigenie. First of all, I should have mentioned up top, these plays are written famously in the French Alexandrines, which is sort of the iambic pentameter of French, right? The iambic pentameter, famously used by Shakespeare, fits our style of speech pretty well. Bum, 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 bum. The Alexandrine is what fits French very well. It's a 12-syllable line, sort of divided into two parts. Boileau calls it, he says, que toujours dans vos vers, le sens coupant les mots, suspend la mystèche et marque le repos. Always in your lines, sense, the meaning, cutting the words, suspend la mystèche, postpones the hemistèche, that's the two parts, and marque le repos, and accents that pause, right? So you can hear it in this line here. Tu m'affliges et me nuis et conspire à me nuire. Heureux qui, satisfait de son humble fortune, livre de joug superbe, où je suis attaché, vit dans l'éclat obscur où les dieux l'ont caché. So this one gives you, and this is from, sorry, I didn't mark down what part of the play it's from, but this is from Iphigenie. Tout m'afflige, everything bothers me, or everything makes me suffer, et me nuit, et conspire à me nuire, and does me harm, and plots to do me harm. But what I really love here is this second line. Heureux qui satisfait de son humble fortune, and all the rest. So happy he who, satisfied with his fortune, libre du joug superbe, free of the awesome, magnificent joug would be like yoga. Would be like the yoke. That's how we say that in English. The yoke, to which I am attached, lives in the pure state of gods, hidden gods. Les dieux l'ont caché. The state in which the gods have hidden. So I also find that Racine is a great one. Oh, he's like Nietzsche or Wilde or Twain. He's a great one for these aphorisms, right? Happy he who, blah, blah, blah. He's very quotable. You can take these lines out of the play and they still are great to talk about. And indeed, he's he is sort of the benchmark for great French poetry. Okay, so in conclusion, well, so here's what. Oh, by the way, I should have said up top also. I mentioned in one of my previous videos, spoiler alert, that I don't really do spoiler alerts since the plays or works that I look at are hundreds of years old, and also because I'm not really so much recommending things for you to read as hoping to be a discussion place where I ask you questions, you and I, and we've all read this, and that what did we get out of it? So that's my hope, and I think also that even if you know the plot points, you're going to want to read these great masters anyway to see how they did what they did. So Iphigenie dies, right? She dies till the boats go off. We all know. Trojan War. No, not here. So Racine substitutes in a move which I must admit I think would be smacks, more Moliere, which would work better in a comedy. He does a substitution. There's this character Eriphyle. Now Eriphyle is an interesting character in her own right in Greek mythology. She's also killed by her son to avenge the death of her husband, who she didn't directly kill, but knowing he would die, she sent him off to this fight with the seven against Thebes. The son is pursued by the Erinyes, just like Orestes, and kills her. But anyway, in this version, Eriphyle instead is the scapegoat for Iphigenie, because it turns out her name is also Iphigenie. Yeah, Deus Ex Machina, I think a bit. Reminds one of Tale of Two Cities, right? Dickens at the end, substituting for the guillotine. Although in that, I would argue is more effective because we care about the person who's making the sacrifice, and it's well prepared, from the beginning. Well, and also it fits the Dickens style, right? Very much selling the newspapers with the melodrama. Whereas here, Eriphyle is we're not very invested in sort of minor character that suddenly steps into this way too big a role, in my opinion, and sort of takes Iphigenie not off the hook, but having spent the whole play developing her as what is great about her is that she's willing to make the sacrifice. The fact now that she doesn't have to make the sacrifice. Oh, and also that the very making of the sacrifice is, lessened by the fact that anyone can just stand in. Any girl would step up and make this sacrifice. Sorry, I wanted to ask you what you thought of this ending, but instead I'm clearly giving my own opinion about this ending. I hope I haven't swayed you. Maybe you think it's a fantastic ending. Many people are happy that Iphigenie gets to live. She doesn't get Achilles, though. So that's the ending, I guess. And what do we think of Racine's version of Iphigenie? Why did he change the ending so radically? And by the way, brave Racine to take on the petty but lethal temper of, in this case, Artemis, or any of the Greek goddesses, and gods, but goddesses, who, when slighted, exact horrible revenge. So, is she going to be fooled by this fake Iphigenie or this secondary Iphigenie? Well, she must have. We know the boats went off to Troy, but I think she's going to find out about it. I think Racine's he's going to hear about it down in Hades, maybe virtual. Take another trip down there and see how he's doing that. John Racine down in Hades. Racine in Hades, that's the next play we'll write. Okay, thank you for listening to me ramble on about Greek mythology in the mouth of the French master of dramatic poetry, Racine. Okay, if you like that, read some of his others. Andromaque, I can definitely recommend. Panto, of course, is his masterpiece. And another time we'll talk about Molière, the great humorist, the great writer of funny plays in French, who I got to see whose plays I got to see performed at the Comédie Française when I was there. I've, alas, still never seen Racine presented on the stage as it is meant to be enjoyed, but hopefully one day. All right, thank you all. Bye-bye.